Hello, very warm welcome to this edition of Rising Stars. I'm Vikram Oza. In the midst of holiday season, we thought it a good idea to feature a startup that claims to be India's largest travel community. The HolidayIQ website lets you plan your holidays based on the many reviews, the many videos and pictures posted by the community. It's based in Bangalore. The founder CEO of HolidayIQ, Hari Nair, is joining us from there. Hey Hari, we like to think holidays in the middle of the week. Well, actually anytime really, but you know what it's like to be in a finance job. You worked with KPMG before you got into the travel business. It seems like a natural progression now, but was it so back in 2004 when you started with the ideation process, or even 2007 when you took that plunge with the launch?
That's true, indeed so. Finance is fairly different from travel, certainly at that time in life, and at that time of the evolution of travel in India.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a good journey, and I have no regrets at all.
Yeah, but Hari, you've been singing from the rooftops about the potential in the domestic tourism market here in India. How are you capitalizing on this growth story, as it were, that you see over there and you keep highlighting as well?
So, what we've realized is that the biggest value creator in tourism is actually high quality information and content, which is really the primary thing that travelers need. After which they need a whole lot of other things like, your hotels and all of that stuff. But really first they need lots of good content. What we said was, because we're going to focus on domestic travelers, we said let's create content that's meaningful for them, not, second-hand content that comes from outside India, right? So really by focusing on creating content for Indians is really how we, fundamentally want to address and create value from domestic travel, right? And the way we have done that is really by asking other Indian travelers to create the content themselves. So we didn't create the content, we created a platform that allowed Indian travelers to come in, create content, and for every one traveler that creates content, we've got, probably in excess of 10,000 travelers that consume that content. And that's really what we do.
So I know, Hari, that when you started out back in the day, you didn't quite start off by selling any products to your users. You didn't work like a travel agency. You didn't do any of those bookings. You routed users to online and offline travel agents. So how did you sustain until you changed track and went about raising funds?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Even today, we actually don't do any bookings. Even today, we pass customers on to other players in the ecosystem who are actually providing the bookings. The difficulty at that point in time, a few years ago, was convincing venture capitalists that model was meaningful for scale, right? And as you pointed out, and that was a challenge. I think we just pointed to the fact that the ecosystem was going to develop. We showed how it has developed in other markets, in China and so on. And yeah, so I think we were generally fairly persuasive, I suspect. And most importantly, I think people found the content that HolidayIQ had was actually personally relevant to them, right, as a VC. So they saw that the product was building up nicely on content. They thought that content by itself had the ability to be defensive as a business value. And they saw that monetization of the kind that I'm talking about, where we pass on to other vendors, would eventually take off. So it was a bit of I think they took a call on the company very early, and it seems to have paid off, at least for the ones who came in very early.
No, so this idea of turning user-generated content into good business, I want you to put that into perspective for us, because it has to be benchmarked again, like a TripAdvisor out there would be in the same kind of bracket. Tell us exactly how the thought process was in trying to adapting it to Indian conditions and getting the right funding in place to make sure that it grows, because I understand your aim is to get 30 million users in 2017, isn't that right?
That's right. So we are currently at about 12 million on a monthly basis, give or take, depending on the season. And we want to obviously do a lot more than that, as you mentioned. So, we've essentially looked at user-generated content for Indian travelers, as I said, as the starting point. And therefore, the kind of content that we have on HolidayIQ starts to differ from how maybe platforms internationally or Western-oriented platforms would look at content. So let me give you 2 or 3 examples of that, right? One example of that is formats of content, right? So we, for example, have, to give one recent example, have a focus on video content. So we have something called video reviews, which we launched about a year ago, where we believe that a lot of Indian travelers of a certain kind prefer to see, video or see video reviews from other travelers instead of long form written reviews. So that's an example of a format being differentiated and relevant for the Indian context. It becomes even more interesting when you realize that video is actually got 50% of the power of video is actually in the audio. So people are actually talking into the video and they're talking in multiple languages. So you actually get incredible power from a video review because A, it's visual, and B, it has language that is your language, highly likely. So that's an example of how a format is being brought into India because that's the natural format for the Indian traveler. The second example would be, we have, for example, a blog. What we realized as we started working with travelers, Indian travelers, is that travelers don't need just information about a destination. They actually need information about how to make up their mind whether to go to A destination or B destination, right? They don't even, the summer holidays or the winter holidays are coming up, where do I go? So to answer that question of where do I go, we created what we call the blog, which is actually an inspiration section of HolidayIQ. Now that doesn't even exist in almost any platform globally that uses UGC to give advice to travelers. So these are two examples of how content itself starts to change when you look at just the Indian market. And that's what we do. And that's really the focus of HolidayIQ, to find content that is particularly relevant for the Indian travelers, and that's how we differentiate.
And to build these collaborations, because like you said, I want to understand your revenue model as well. How seamlessly have you been able to do this? How does it work out for you? Because it's not easy to get funding in these difficult times. So going ahead with the kind of targets that you have as well, I just want to understand how your revenue models look right now, how much business you're seeing in the domestic market, because I understand that international destination is something else that you want to kind of make sure that you get in the coming years.
Yeah, so let me give you first of all a sense of the framework in which we make money. So essentially, users come to us to research a holiday, and then they want to do one of two types of booking, right? Some customers want to go for a holiday and say, I will do all of the bookings myself. So let me book hotels separately, let me book flights separately, and so on. So they would be what I'd call the self-bookers, right? The second category of people are people who say, I like this place, I've researched it. Now let me go to a tour operator or a travel agent and just get a package for the whole thing, so I don't have to worry too much about how I book it separately. So those are our package bookers. Now we have a solution for both, where we work with the relevant vendors. For people who want to book hotels themselves, we've integrated with practically every online travel agency that operates in India, right? So whether it's Make My Trip or so on and so forth, all of them, we've got them seamlessly integrated into HolidayIQ, where you can actually come to HolidayIQ, find the hotel that you're looking for, read up the reviews, all of that stuff, and then say, let me find the best price for this hotel for the dates that I want to travel, and we will seamlessly go crawl all of those various online travel agencies and get back and show you the best prices and the availability for your dates. So that's the solution we have for people who are looking for a hotel booking. In those instances, when we send the customer from our site to the relevant travel agent, we get paid for that, right? So the revenue comes from the travel agent giving us, because we have passed on a qualified customer to the online travel agent. In the case of customers who are looking for a holiday package booking and not a hotel booking, we actually have worked with a bunch of travel agents across India. So whether it's the large ones like Cox and Kings and Thomas Cook and people like that, or the mid-range travel agents across India, we've got a large network of travel agents. Right. And when customers look for holiday packages, we pass them on to them. So we make money from both categories, offline travel agents, online travel agents.
Also, before I let you go, though we are running out of time, but very quickly, if you can tell us which the hottest holiday destinations were of 2016, and how will that list look different from the one that I'll probably be checking with you on at the end of 2017?
Sorry, what is the question? Between 2016
I said which were the hottest holiday destinations in 2016, and if that list is going to look dramatically different at the end of 2017.
We see a change every year, and I think the reason for that change is because more and more smaller cities are becoming big consumers and becoming big sources of tourists. So for example, in South, if I were to take a reference to Southern India, there's a new destination that's coming up in Tamil Nadu called Pollachi. Nobody's ever heard of it, but I guarantee you that in 3 years' time, it will be like Coorg was 5 years ago, right? Nobody had heard of it, but suddenly it became large, coffee estates, etc., etc. And we see this across all the 4 regions. There are a bunch of young, new destinations that are coming up. Nobody has heard of them today, but they're actually gradually coming up. So there's Mandarmani happening in the east and so on and so forth. There are a bunch of such destinations. So every year, the destination list does change. In a span of 3 years, they dramatically change.
Fantastic talking to you, getting your perspective on the holiday business. Of course, it's a great place to be. And we hope you're taking a lot of holidays yourself. That's one of the perks of being in the kind of startup that you've been involved in. Great luck going ahead from here as well. Hari Nair, our rising star of the day. We will be featuring many more in the future. But for the moment, from me, Vikram Oza, and the entire team, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.